Good morning. Welcome to a special edition of Star Spangled Sit-Down. I'm your guest host, Simone Jackson, PEPFAR Coordinator, the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief here at the U.S. Embassy. On this edition of our show, we're commemorating World AIDS Day 2021. U.S. government's this theme is HIV, ending the HIV epidemic, equitable access, everyone's voice, which reflects the U.S. government's commitment to ending the HIV epidemic globally. Today, we get to hear from the voice of the fabulous Miss Joan Stephen, who has been an advocate for HIV for more than 21 years. Joan is a mother of 7 children and is also a nature lover. But it is her voice of hope-inspired vision, her definition of HIV, that has allowed her to live her life to the fullest. Joan, let's take a bit to have our rapid fire segment to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm going to ask you some questions. All you have to do is say the first thing that comes to your mind, and we have 1 minute, right?
Okay.
Ready?
Ready.
Spending time at the beach or up in the hills?
Up in the hills.
Up in the hills, good. Dancing in the rain or singing in the car?
Dancing in the rain.
Reggae music or country and western?
Reggae.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Coffee, great. It's a pleasure to start getting to know you, Joan. Let me give you a minute to tell us about your definition of HIV, hope-inspired vision. Tell us more about this definition you coined and what does it mean to you?
The definition, it just comes randomly because I was watching an interview where someone said me one day with this young man who didn't have any hand or feet. He has no feet, but he's a motivational speaker. So during my ordeal, I was lying there watching it and I said, wow, here's this gentleman. He has no hand. There's a little nook. You know, his feet, it's barely clear to see his pants where it's folded. And he's so he's so inspired. You know, he doesn't make his disability, put it at this form, stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. No, HIV is within me. And here I am going to sit down and ponder. I said, no. So he gave me that hope. So I always wanted to be an advocate for persons living with HIV. So I joined a group on Facebook and, you know, they started with affirmation. Come up with an affirmation for HIV. So I lied there, and it's 2 I came up with. Help individuals to be victorious. And I sat there and again, I said, health inspire vision, as well as hope inspired as well. So I just came up with that and posted on their affirmation. They said I must send a picture of myself, which I did, and they put it on their platform, what they have there. So that come up with it.
Definitely motivational, and just the joy makes you really feel it. Let's talk a bit. Can you walk us through the day when you were sent to room 114 of the Comprehensive Health Clinic?
Oh, on that day, I'll never forget. Well, I was a little looking about to go away on a Canadian program, which is an hotel program. So, you know, you have to do medical. So when the medical result came back, I didn't get that chance. So they didn't tell me at the time. They just called me and give me a letter. So when I got that letter, I have to take it. My name was on the front. I had to take it to the Ministry of Health building. But the only one I knew was down by King Street. So I went there because I don't know where anywhere else. And then when I went near the lady, I speak to the receptionist at the desk, and she read it, folded it, read it, and she said, "You're at the wrong place." So I said, "The wrong place? It's a Ministry of Health." And she said, "This is not where you're supposed to be." So I was sent by Comprehensive, you know, going there. And then when I went there, she distinctly told me to ask for a specific individual, which was Nurse Harris. And I did. And went in the room, and then Nurse Harris got the paper because I gave it to her. And she said, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Didn't you read?" I said, "Well, it has my name on it, but they didn't tell me to read it, so I didn't." So she slid back over, and that's when I found out that I was HIV positive. Well, that was a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you didn't see HIV as a downfall. Like, tell us more about your perspective of what it meant.
No, because, you know, in the process of it might seem as a downfall at the beginning because based on what you hear, you know, that's why I said on the educating individuals about this thing it starts off wrong, and that is why we have things we are trying to put under control now, and it's very hard. You have to give people time now to accept themselves, which is a cycle we're off, it take with time. But as I go along day by day, I used to cry a lot. Yes, because if I comb my ear, I said, yeah, I'm dead. But eventually, I learned to accept what is wrong with me and just tell myself that I have to live no matter what. So,
Yeah, speaking of living a positive life, what would you say to those in our audience who are living with HIV?
what I would say is that life goes on, it's not finished because HIV is something that you cannot see, right? We know what can be the outcome, but the outcome comes when you're not on your meds, you're not practicing self-care and get medication and. But the thing is, this is not just only the self-care and the medication. We have to respect persons that let first like that they are human beings. They have value to society. So the respect and love. And to me, that's the medicine. Because once that is enforced, everything else is okay.
And how can others support those who have and are living with HIV?
Remember, I told people that we give birth because we have to get pregnant. It's a seed that takes its time to grow. When it grows, we do not know what's in there, what's in our womb, what we're having. But when it comes out, if it's a boy and it's what we want, we're glad. So we give birth to everyone that is on this island that we have, but a mother. We give birth to our own children. We love them at first. Why not continue loving them? So it come back down to the same thing again. You nurture them. If they fall, you pick them up. You brush off the little scratching. You ensure that they are secure. They just need that. Just need that guidance to know that here I am going through something that is new to me, but there is someone who I can go and relate to, and that person give me a sense of hope, and along with it, they don't shun me or close the door and say, I don't need you here, but everything just be the norm. Just treat them as though you would like to be treated.
Also, as a woman and a mother living with HIV, are there any special challenges that you've seen, and how can society help those women who are living with HIV and trying to support their families?
There are challenges because most persons who are HIV positive doesn't have a job. I give God thanks that I am working with Jane Plus, right? But just remember, it's not going to be an ongoing thing. So they need, and you have some persons who don't live anywhere. So how can we create that space for them? So that's like a home where they know they can come to if they get turned out, and jobs that they can do. So we have to first find out what is it that they're capable of doing, what kind of skills they have, and whatever they have, help them to build up that. And eventually, everything just goes like this, because at least they have something to rely on. So when there's nothing, and only the HIV, what they know that they have, and then when they go to get services, they are dealt with, we push them in our corner, and they're going to stay in that corner because that's the only corner that they feel safe in. But once you show them that regardless of your status or whatever it is, not to be only HIV, cancer, anything, you go there. Because remember, we can't go out there meeting an accident and we end up with no foot. So we become stable where we can't move. Somebody has to help us. I was at that stage. 1 year I didn't know myself. For 1 year, my brain shut down completely. I couldn't walk, I couldn't eat. There's nothing I could do for me. Admitted to the hospital, the doctor tell my parents they can prepare to bury me. But when man said no, God say yes. So that's why I'm so proud of myself now, because I've been through that and here I am now, right? I might not have certain things that I would really love to have, but growing up, my parents always told me, learn to be comfortable with what you have until God bless you with what you want.
The theme for this year is about listening to the voices of people living with HIV as we figure out the best way to respond. Looking forward to a time where hopefully the HIV epidemic is no longer as rampant. How do you hope that we all get to that point, and what can we do as a society to help us get there?
Each and everyone needs to get involved. Not only the Ministry of Health, but everyone has a role to play. Because remember, we all have families. We're all having sex. Because sex gives us HIV. So it doesn't happen to me, it can happen to you. you might in the position to secure yourself or get treatment or go somewhere private where nobody knows, but the other person has to go public. And that is where it is. In a public space, people need to come together. If we just start to unite as one and show each other love, it comes back down to love, you know. We don't have that. So united we stand, but divided we fall. So in unity, you get a better result. Policies and everything can always be out there. You said policies and you get legislation because you need things to be a guideline. But how many things that is said, is it being mandatory, or is it somebody keep on enforcing that that's the way it's supposed to be? So those are the things. So you can't enforce people and make policy for somebody to love you. That is a natural thing. So a person who's HIV is human first. All they just need to remember that they are human being first. Circumstances, and I think I don't know if you have left before I said it because you weren't there to hear my speech. It's in my little paper where I said that we were in the state of what? Intimacy. So we were making love when HIV was formed. So 3 persons with love and respect. That's all they need. You know? That's all.
That's a great idea. The intimacy of it,
Yeah.
and HIV comes from intimacy, and that's how we'll end it too, is by loving each other. So a little bit you mentioned on sort of the stigma that people face living with HIV. How has that stigma affected you and people you know as you try to live and thrive?
All right. I explain it 2 ways. Stigma is perception, the way you think. So stigma at most time is with us, because I can come into this room and no matter who you look at me, and it's a lot of media matter. Because you have self-stigmatized, and that is more out there than just the stigma itself. The discrimination part of it is what divide people. And because you discriminate them, you look down on them, you skin up your face on them. That is more dangerous to me than the stigma itself. You understand me? Stigma is just a little itch to me, but the discrimination is more profound, because as a nurse or a doctor, a teacher, whoever it may be, just like your child, as a child, he looks up to you to lead them. As an adult, we look up and we go some places because the nurse, who is more in a professional form, you expect them to deal with you a certain way, and it is not done like that. So that's where the diversity comes in.
Right. You mentioned the sort of discrimination that happens in the medical setting, but one thing you also talked about was the effects for people as they live, being homeless and not being able to have a job. Can you talk a bit more about what's needed outside of the healthcare system for people living with HIV?
What else is needed is out of the healthcare system, persons, how would I put it? It's not only the healthcare system. It's in the home. Ketaffa first begin there. Mm-hmm. And then you have the church community, the community itself that you live in. So if the community push you out because you are positive, where do I go? Right? I have nowhere to go. So because I have nowhere to go, I'll probably sleep on the street or in a little hut. Then comes the part where I have to go and get medical assistance. I'm not going there because I might see somebody from the community, and that is going to keep me back. So it starts from the home, just like with a child. Teach a child that the way it grows, that when you get. So you have to gear it from the beginning. It's like a grassroots, mm-hmm. right? If something is rooted properly, there's no way you can jerk that out, right? So it starts from the beginning, or we deal with each other as parents who have kids, as husband and wife, or whatever it may be. And then that is how we do it step by step. It's a process. It's everything not going to happen overnight. And what works for you doesn't necessarily work for me, because I can be comfortable in my space. While if it's you, you're not comfortable. There must be something that's a little off. But it's just how we approach it and how we deal with it can give us the result that we need in the long run. Because it's not just the health sector alone, but it's just that because I do not want people to feel because it's the health sector causing discrimination. It's everywhere.
You seem like a woman of faith, and I know one thing that helps people is faith-based organizations, their churches. How can those organizations based on faith support people living with HIV and those most likely to be affected by HIV?
Well, with all they have, what they can do, first you have to find out the challenges that the individual is having. If you can assist, and if you know somewhere where they can get assistance, that is one of the main things. But don't turn them away once you find out that they're positive, because it can be happening to you right there and then, and you don't even know. Because a lot of us are not even being tested, never ever been tested for HIV. And when we do get tested, you start to withdraw on yourself and forget that it was sex we were all having. Did you see it on the individual? No, because if you did, you wouldn't get encounter. It doesn't cause, you have never heard that because of taking drugs, persons are HIV positive. It is a sexual practice. So practice safe sex, that you do not contract HIV. And if you do have to go unprotected, ensure that both partners are, don't have anything, they are undetectable, nothing is there. So that means if something goes wrong, you know where it's at. So all organizations play their role. Get other NGOs in that space where they can educate everybody, teach them, because a lot of people still don't know much about HIV. So they need to educate them more. So you have more persons coming in and share, or the organizations, them coming together and expound on where, educate people more on what HIV is and the causes and the do's and the don'ts on it. That's what they should do.
Great. Just want to give a shout out to our audience. Yuri, thank you for your note. We need love and togetherness. Definitely agree with that. Vincent, thank you. Great start to the new month. Yes, World AIDS Day. We are commemorating here the fight that we have all joined together to try to end this epidemic and make sure that we all have a brighter future. Looking into the future, I have one more question for you. Just as a mother, I'm a mother as well. One of the issues that we see is that the new generation, the youth who have not grown up hearing about HIV and may not know people as some of the older generations are not necessarily taking the precautions and they're not taking it seriously. What would you say to youth, as not only a person living with HIV, but as a mother and as someone who cares about the country? How can they help to end this epidemic?
First and foremost, when we're growing up, you used to say, if, as adults and a child come in our conversation, they say, go and sit. This is not for you. But what kind of encounterment do we give our children? Sometimes they have something to say and we just don't listen. So we need to sit down with them and educate them from an early age, because these kids nowadays are very smart. You're right, you might not just come out boldly. Because I have a little 7-year-old grandson, he ensures every night at 7 o'clock, Grandma, you take your meds, because he sees me doing it. He doesn't know what it is for, right? So one night, he's just 5. And I said, Grandma is living with HIV. You might not know what HIV is. You there? Who tell you I don't? I listen to the television. So they listen to things. Right. And I said, if you go out the road and somebody say not to go near Grandma, would you do it because Grandma HIV positive? No, I love my grandma. Come back to the same word, love. How do we show love? Love is not just when you need something. That's not love. And I think we use it in a different way. So the kids need to be educated more. I remember I went into a school and we were talking about HIV, and one little boy says, plastic bag him use as a condom. Come on. The same little scandal bag. You understand? They are in more urge for sex. Their ego is different. So we need to educate them. They're saying that 16-year-old, these kids are having sex before they're even 16. So what is it that we do to prevent them from catching HIV? And remember, younger girls, they want the person who drives the big fast car, right? He can be HIV positive. You don't know. Persons born with HIV and didn't know to, because them just never know. And it is there, not being treated or anything, that they can become viral suppressor or undetectable. So the virus is still there, replicated. We need to educate the kids more in depth, because you cannot stop them from having sex. You can't. They are going to. But let them know the responsibility that comes with it, what can happen. It's not only pregnancy, but name out everything. You understand me?
Mhm.
Yes, you can get pregnant because they do get pregnant. You have the child, you have to secure that till that child comes of age. Because that is your responsibility. So when it reaches certain age, it leaves and gone on its own. But HIV not going anywhere, it's going to stay with you. How can you deal with that situation? You get cancer or any other thing. How can you deal with that? So we need to give them it as it is, that they can understand. Teach more in school. We stop teaching so many things in school. That's why these kids sometimes are so distracted, and more on the phone. Well, the phone is their source of learning. Put it in their face right there and then. Now they go on. Every click they click on something else, it's supposed to be there. So they can't say they don't see it. So whatever outcomes, so when it's there, you can say, okay, it's there on the phone for you to read, whichever station, whichever channel you choose. So if you're not educating yourself where that is concerned, because if you need to Google and find anything else, you do Google and find it. So if you don't, whatever the consequences, you're going to just have to live with it. Your choice. We all have choices, but choose the right one.
Yeah. No, that's just a great message and great information. I think education is definitely important.
It is.
Love. I think it all comes back to love. The transmission starts in love, and the way we treat people should reflect the love that we have for each other. Joan, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you here on this special edition of the Star Spangled Sit-Down. Achieving HIV epidemic control, no one can be left behind.
No one.
No one can be ignored. No one can be discriminated against. All communities, populations must be included. Youth, women, LGBT. I think it's really important that we're all in there and we love each other. I'm Simone Jackson. I want to leave you today with a special quote from our guest, Joan Stephen. Fear. Fear stands for face everything and rise we will. Tell us your feedback in the comments section. Let us know who you'd like to see on the show. Take care and thank you.